the centre here, we're a community-based outdoor education centre, so we have lots of clubs that come and use the centre, Outrigger Canoe Club, Sailing Club, lots and lots of different community groups. And one of the Outrigger Canoe Club members was getting married and decided that they wanted to give their wedding gifts to a local charity. They couldn't find anything suitable. They were looking to support young people's mental health, and where they're involved in so much outrigger canoeing, they wanted to make sure it was linked to water sports. So they approached me and asked me if I had any ideas, and I know one of the nurses at Pebble Lodge, so we got chatting and linked the two together, which basically ended up with us deciding that we should invest that money that they'd got from their wedding gifts and raise other charitable funds to support Pebble Lodge coming down to the centre on a regular basis. I think one of the outcomes of working with Pebble Lodge over the last 18 months is we've seen the success of the project and also how we could extend it. So recently the centre has decided to set up a charity called Head Outdoors. We've applied for charitable status, and that charity is going to work on continuing fundraising so that the Pebble Lodge scheme can continue. And that fundraising will be through the RYA, through local sports partnerships and other local businesses, so creating as much income as we can to carry on supporting Pebble Lodge with the sessions, but also to start looking at early intervention work with some of the local schools and local colleges, just to try and tackle mental health and well-being as early as we can with all of the groups that are visiting us.
We really don't know who's coming until they literally arrive, and we might not have met them before, and we often have to really think on our feet. But I think what makes it really work is that we're all used to working with each other, both ourselves and the staff from the unit. We've got to know them really well, and we can just kind of judge things as they happen and make the best choices for the young people. So talking about choices, I think what's really nice for them is that firstly they do choose whether or not they come, and when they get here it's their choice as to whether they take part or not. So that's always been very clear from the start, that they just have to lead the way really. We've got a very wide range of activities. We've got power boating, which actually is probably the most popular, and we're looking at ways of developing that. We're working with the RYA and we're going to register as a sailability centre so that we can really get the best out of people. So it's power boating, sailing, kayaking, canoeing, stand-up paddle boarding. We'd really like to do dragon boating with them, but we need numbers for that, so that's something we're aiming for in the future. But something we developed over the winter was doing stuff on the land. So we've done fire building, we've done some den building, we've done climbing and archery. And surprisingly, some of those land-based activities have actually been really successful. They really enjoy fire building, and part of that is just being in the environment and looking for wood, looking for things to burn, maybe having a challenge of lighting a fire with just one match. And we've now got a challenge of lighting a fire next week with no matches, so we'll see how that goes. But it is a very kind of broad spectrum of activities that we can offer here.
We come here every Monday, linked with the Quay School and Pebble Lodge, and we come here and do outdoors activities, whether that's fire making, power boating, sailing, paddleboarding, all sorts of stuff. I think most of the young people that come here enjoy it, and me and Taylor certainly do. Personally, I think it's because I get a lot of freedom from it. It's like, I don't know about you, like being at Pebble, like how do you feel when you're at Pebble?
It kind of feels like you're trapped because it's a locked building. Half the time you can't even open windows, and then like you're out there completely on the open waters, just completely different.
You're actually sort of making your own decisions instead of them being made for you.
I've been working in CAMS now for 16, 17 years, so that's a lot of history there, and activities, and especially ones based in the community, were a lot more sedentary compared to what you get from this. Because obviously encouraging the young people to get actively involved, you see a huge difference in terms of their presentation before they leave the unit, and when they come here, And I can honestly say, in terms of like lifting mood and helping with things like regulation, behaviour regulation, or mood regulation, or trying to teach them that independent living skill of managing their emotions. It makes a huge difference. Really does. And I mean, our job as well is to try and sort of promote that to them. Is to get them to recognise that, which is also I think what the staff do here, the staff that work at Hengistbury Head as well as the staff in the NHS. I think it does foster the team spirit, definitely, because obviously if you've got a group of young people on the unit that have been together quite a long time, there is a certain camaraderie, and also amongst the staff as well, supporting them, because you get to know them, they get to know you. You know, we've all got sort of unique sort of personality quirks and things like that. It's just a nice sort of like familial atmosphere, if that's the right terminology to use, where we all support each other to do it. In terms of what you've said about the peers supporting each other, it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, some of the young people you've seen today, I mean, some of them are quite savvy about sort of, sailing and things like that. Obviously they do it when they're at home with their parents or whatever. It's something they like to do in the community. And it's that challenge of trying to sort of explain to them and how important it is for them to support their peers as well, getting them to recognise that, because it's all, I guess it's kind of circular, isn't it? I mean, if you look at anything to do with recovery, it's like being it's like a wheel, isn't it? And it's I mean, that's pretty much. That's the statement, really.
When we go out onto the water, whether it's on the powerboat or maybe if we're canoeing or something, it's almost like you're in your own bubble or in your own world. And so young people who might not actually look at us or talk to us when they're arriving, or even when we come back after the trip, they'll open up. And it's really valuable because we can talk about anything really. It doesn't have to be about being out on the water. And we found that we find out a lot about their interests and their hobbies just driving along in the boat. So an example of that was a young lad who literally wouldn't talk to us here. And he wouldn't talk to us when he came off the boat. But on the boat, he was telling us that music was his passion. So he played something like 8 instruments. But his favourite instrument was his voice. And so he then decided he would sing us 2 songs just on his own as we drove along the river. And I think that's really valuable because he was really expressing himself, he was enjoying himself. And also for the staff with him that had come from Pebble Lodge, they might not have known that about him. So it just opens the door and it allows you to be able to connect with people in a way that you might not have done otherwise.
We see a lot of benefits for the young people. Just getting them outside is a big challenge for some. Here is because there's few people and they're out on the water, and they feel more secure in being able to leave the environment that they've possibly become used to. Aside from that, it encourages them to do things they may never have tried before. It gives them a sense of enjoyment, but they also get to make progress in things that are not just academic or to do with their mental health. So they can make progress in lots of ways, which is positive for them. When they get back to the unit itself, you can see it, just their manner, how they're feeling. They're much more upbeat.
We sort of encourage them and try and motivate them to come. And for some young people that suffer from low motivation and low self-esteem, coming somewhere like this really boosts that for them. And I think it's so lovely that when you watch them in activities that they almost forget, that they have these mental health problems and they're able to focus on something else for the time that they're here, which I think is really, really lovely for them.
The Hengistbury Head staff will point out all different wildlife that's around, and it's quite nice just to see all the things that are around this area, sort of the natural habitats, and just finding out bits and bobs about sort of the world.